All right. Since our chair, who is Councilmember Buscaino, is late arriving, I will open the meeting for the Technology Committee. And when he arrives, we'll turn it over to him. We do have a quorum, I guess. We have Supervisor Solis on the remote location. So the meeting is now declared open. And the first item is to develop and demonstrate zero-emission battery-operated switcher locomotive. Good news. And we have Joseph Lopat.
Maybe before he starts, I know
Oh,
the General
yes, and Bay wants to announce the procedures. There's some new procedures.
So just for any public members who would want to make public comments, we have the blue cards available. As you see what I'm holding up right here. We also have them available at the remote location, it's my understanding. If you do have comments that you'd like to make, we would just ask that you fill out the form and give it to the committee secretary, who is Pat, if you could raise your hand so everybody knows you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bay. Okay, we'll go ahead now with the first agenda item. And Joseph Lopat, are you on?
Thank you. As you were just mentioned, the first item is to develop and demonstrate a zero emissions battery operated switcher locomotive. Locomotives are a significant source of diesel emissions, as we all know. The port of Long Beach itself has 20 locomotives plus switchers running in the ports currently, and they produce around 98 tons of NOx per year. The San Pedro Bay ports recognize this urgency to mitigate some of these pollutants, and they have a clean air action plan that supports near zero and zero emissions locomotive technologies. CARB also recognizes this problem, and they set out a solicitation in 2017 for a zero emissions track miles demonstration program. San Pedro Bay Ports submitted a grant application for this, and with a letter of support from the South Coast SCAQMD for a near zero CNG switcher locomotive project. Now, this grant was for a zero emissions locomotive, battery operated. This application was for a zero emissions locomotive, battery operated, while in use in its duty cycle. The only reason why it had CNG included in this was the CNG engine was there as an insurance policy, because the technology at the time, they were worried that the battery technology would not be sufficient enough in case there was a problem. The CNG engine could help the engine return to its home. So the CNG was not to be used on the locomotive during its demonstration. It was only going to be used in an emergency situation. In 2018, early this year, the City of Los Angeles Harbor Department received a grant from CARB to demonstrate a zero emissions locomotive. Subsequently, the city is contracting with V-Rail and Pacific Harbor Lines to develop a battery-operated switcher to run a full shift. Now, the scope now has changed on this project, where the engine will all be completely battery-operated. There will be no longer a CNG engine involved in this scope of work. What happened was, we have a project currently that South Coast is funding for a CNG locomotive. And the technology we've been learning from this CNG project, we developed the company called Voltabox developed some better technology and more efficient technology to run the electric motors and the controls on the switcher locomotive. This better technology works well also with the fact that the CNG locomotive was extended for the CNG tanks. And when they extended the CNG locomotive, they discovered that, why can't we put batteries in place where those CNG tanks were? So now we have 14 battery pods on a switcher locomotive, coming up to about 2,100 horsepower, which is what the switcher locomotive is required. And now through their modeling, they have figured that they can run this a full shift without having to worry about the CNG engine. They should be able to run about 80% of their battery power and put the engine back after shift and recharge. The proposal also includes the infrastructure to charge the locomotive when it's parked. South Coast SCAQMD, with board's approval, will contract with City of Los Angeles Harbor Department to cost share this project. The proposed project budget is, CARB's grant was about 2.7 million, and the City of Los Angeles Harbor Department is going to contribute around 300,000. Pacific Harbor Lines is 200-some thousand involved in this. And V-Rail Technologies, the builder of the locomotive, is contributing 231,000 to this project. The South Coast SCAQMD is requesting 300,000 for this project. The recommended action: to execute a contract with the City of Los Angeles Harbor Department to develop and demonstrate a fully operational battery-operated switcher locomotive, an amount not to exceed 300,000 from the Clean Fuels Fund. Any questions?
Just a moment, I have to confer with the attorney. Okay. I need to declare that I'm a member of the California Air Resources Board. I don't have a financial interest, and I have no conflict of interest here on this matter, but I need to disclose for the record that I am a member of that board. Thank you very much for your report, and this looks like really good news. We need, what, 100 tons of NOx reduction every year? So we have it. 98.
Well,
That's
that's
per
20.
day.
Per year. Every day.
So we need
Well, we need,
365 times that.
we need a lot more of these locomotives then.
Definitely. And, this was an action item, right?
Are there any questions?
I actually just have a couple of really brief ones. So now that it's switched to full electric and doesn't have the CNG backup,
Yes.
if the locomotive does get stuck out there, I assume it can just be pulled by another locomotive.
That's what their intention is.
That's
but
their thought.
There's so much battery capacity of this, and they know what the duty cycle is of the locomotive in the port, so they know how much it's going to use. And with that much capacity left in the batteries, they should be able to. It's like if it broke down even, they have to somehow
Sure.
get it out anyway. So they're pretty confident they should be able to run a
Yeah,
full
they're
shift.
designing it to work the full load.
Yeah.
shift.
Okay. And I assume that we're looking at the heaviest potential pull, so it's not just intermodal cars or, empty box cars or something
Sure.
like that. They're looking at that. So, okay. Just other quick question is, what's the time, how long does it take to charge the locomotive? And so it's going to go back to, PHL's yard in
The
the evening
charging,
or
there's
daytime, whatever.
They're planning on running this over 1,000 hours in testing on this
Okay.
locomotive. The charging procedure is to charge it overnight
Okay.
and to recharge. Now, there's also downtime with this switcher and it's in the yard, where they're going to locate the charging station where they could charge it if it's sitting there for a couple hours, like someone's on lunch or something, they could still plug the locomotive in. They're having that option available to them because they have to figure out how long it's going to take that to charge that. There's a lot of battery packs.
Sure.
At 14 pods, it's a
Yeah.
considerable amount. So they do have it so they could set it up and charge it while it's not being used. If there's there's downtime where it can be charged and plugged in. And hopefully in the future, we'll have it so they could just pull into a space and it'll like automatically charge, almost like a catenary system where you just run under some wires and keep it charged that way.
Okay. It'll be interesting information to get because I know a lot of the business, I don't know what PHL's business model is, but a lot of the trucking companies down there are using the trucks, during 2 shifts. So they're down only 5-6 hours a night. I don't know how often PHL uses the locomotives, but it'll be an interesting experiment at the very least, and definitely accomplishes the goals that we have, reducing
I
NOx
think with
emissions.
the
So,
amount of
you know,
locomotives they have others too that are also operating, so it's not like this is one engine doing all the work.
Correct, yeah. I'm thinking just more down the road where there's full full deployment, they're all electric, and,
don't wanna have
do
to
we have
buy
the
double the
infrastructure in
assets,
place?
yeah.
So
Right.
this is good information to gather right now, and I'm excited about the demonstration project. So thanks a lot for the comments, appreciate
So
it.
it's one locomotive that we're working with now and
Yes.
scale that up. Yeah, we need to get 365.
Hopefully. We know.
We're trying.
Okay, any questions, Supervisor?
No questions. We move the item.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for this item.
Public comment.
Oh, I am so sorry.
Oh, no, I'm on the next one.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
okay, I didn't have a card for you, Harvey, so, we'll call on you for the next time. All right, can we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilmember Robinson.
Aye.
Supervisor Solis,
Aye.
motion passes 3 ayes.
Okay, item number 2 is revenue, recognize revenue and execute contracts to replace heavy-duty diesel trucks, and Vicky White is on that.
And just another reminder, if anybody other than Harvey has any blue cards, if you could give the blue card, especially if it's on this item, to Pat up at the front right there, that would be great.
Okay.
So Harvey, if you could give, or Pat will get your card, thank you.
I think what happens is Harvey likes to write his notes on the card, and then he reads off that when he's testifying, so we may have to make an exception so he can write his notes. Okay, Vicky, go ahead.
Thank you. With this item, staff is recommending that the board recognize revenue and execute contracts to replace heavy-duty diesel trucks. In May of this year, the CEC awarded SCAQMD a grant of $8 million to replace older diesel trucks with near-zero emission natural gas trucks that are involved in drayage and goods movement activities. The CEC funds will be leveraged with $6 million in local match funds, comprised of $2 million each from the Port of LA and Port of Long Beach, as well as $2 million from the SCAQMD, but for a total project cost of $14 million. In January, SCAQMD closed a solicitation for clean truck projects under the Prop 1B program. This solicitation was heavily oversubscribed, and we were unable to fund all eligible truck projects using the balance of the Prop 1B funds that were available. A subset of these unfunded truck projects involving the replacement of the older diesel trucks with near zero emission natural gas trucks were submitted and approved by CEC for funding through the $8 million grant project. The remaining unfunded projects can be funded under AB 134, which allows funding for clean truck projects meeting the criteria of the Prop 1B program. With this item, staff is recommending the board recognize $8 million from the CEC program, from the California Energy Commission, and $2 million from each from Port of LA and Port of Long Beach. SCAQMD will provide a $2 million in match funds towards this project, bringing the total cost of this project to $14 million. Staff is also seeking board approval for the executive officer to execute an MOU with the ports to receive the port revenue, and then go ahead and move forward with execution of the contracts to replace 140 diesel trucks with the near zero emission natural gas trucks. These projects.
This is exciting. I'm so fired up over this. Continue. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Vicki.
No, I'm happy to hear that. Oh, shoot. Just lost my slides. 1 second. And
I'm sorry. I screwed it all up.
it's an important note that these projects meet the criteria of the Prop 1B program. They'll receive an incentive amount of about $100,000 per truck. With regards to the AB 134 program, we propose to fund an additional 148 eligible clean truck projects that we received through that Prop 1B solicitation through our community air protection program. These 148 trucks meet the criteria of Prop 1B program, and they involve the replacement of the older diesel trucks with 69 zero-emission trucks and 79 near zero-emission natural gas trucks. In summary, the proposed funding for the CEC grant project will be a total of $14 million, comprised of the $8 million from CEC. In addition to that, the match funds will be coming from Port of LA and Port of Long Beach, as well as SCAQMD at $2 million each. And then the AB 134 program, the total funding would be $19.39 million for replacement with these 148 diesel trucks for near zero natural gas emission trucks. So in summary, the recommended actions are to recognize the $8 million from the CEC as well as the $2 million from each of the ports, and execute an MOU with the ports to receive the revenue, the $8 million in revenue to replace the 140 diesel trucks. And in addition to that, execute contracts for the 140 trucks, near zero natural gas trucks, as well as move forward with executing contracts to replace 148 diesel trucks with zero and near zero emission trucks, an amount not to exceed $19.39 million. And with that, before I wrap up, I would like to call your attention to some changes that will affect this item. Please note that there are 3 companies currently identified in Table 2 of the board letter that will not be moving forward. These companies include Golden State Foods and Logistics Support Network, who withdrew from the program, as well as Martin Produce, who has some compliance issues with past projects that have been funded through our incentive programs. In addition, staff is recommending delaying consideration of an award to Dependable Highways Express pending further review by legal. So with removal of these 4 companies, the total awards in Table 2 will be reduced to $16,590,000. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I'm back. Madam Vice Chair, thank you so much for taking on. Thank you so much. I just got out of a city council meeting. Appreciate the report. This item, as you heard my excitement, reminds us that we're continuing to march our way towards a zero emissions port with this technology that's before us. And I'm also reminded about the price points, that this is not cheap. And my question to you, Ms. White, is can you just give me a price difference between a CNG type truck to an all-electric?
So I can help answer that. So the natural gas trucks, the current 0.02 gram engines are around $150,000.
Yeah.
And we think a large portion of that is due to the tank cost. So we're looking at ways to incentivize the tanks rather than the truck. But that's the going rate's around 150K. The amount for electric trucks can range anywhere because they don't exist except for one model, BYD. And that is a low range, less than 100-mile range that we're actually testing in several demonstration programs. And those are anywhere from $200,000 to $250,000. Some of the even newer ones that folks are testing can be up to $300,000. So they're 2 times more to 2.5 times more than the natural gas truck. And if you compare it to a diesel, it's diesels are much less expensive. So that's the
and with the Cleaner Action Plan with both ports, we hope to influence the market, knowing that we're going to march our way towards a zero emission port, and hoping that more companies come forward with this technology. And that's how I think we, as an organization, the city leaders, can influence the market and the green technology to come forward. So, and then lastly, if I can, then I'll turn over to my colleagues. I know we're heavily relying on some of these dollars. Half of those dollars from both ports. What's our ongoing communication with the ports? I just want to be aware of, If there's any stumbling blocks and breakdown in communication, please keep us posted. So both ports are on board?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
been very good. We're just finalizing the MOA as we speak, but it's been great
Okay.
communication.
Keep us, I mean, if they're withholding any dollars or information, we'll be knocking on their doors, so.
Well, if you can squeeze more out of them, we'd appreciate it.
Okay, colleagues, any questions, comments on item 2 before us?
I have a quick one. And do I need to state anything, or is the disclosure here good enough? Or?
No,
Okay.
that's
Alright.
been removed,
Okay.
so.
Yeah, so you mentioned that it was heavily oversubscribed by
Councilman
how much?
Robinson, just so we are removing, as Vicky said, Dependable Highway Express, Inc., which is listed as having 8 trucks for 0 emissions in the amount of 1.6 million at this time. The committee will not be voting on anything related to that item today.
Sure. Yeah. So that heavily oversubscribed. So how many applied there? So.
Yeah, we received funding requests that we couldn't fund in over $48 million, but not all of those were deemed eligible. So the ones that we're presenting today is a subset of that 48 million, about 20 million in eligible clean truck projects.
Okay. Yeah. So we just got to go find funding, right?
No.
Ms. Mitchell?
Mr. Chair,
Supervisor? Yes.
I'm very excited about the program, and I'd like to move the item.
I'll second it.
Fantastic.
Got a public comment here.
Oh, public comment.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a motion and a second. We have a public comment. Please come forward. Recognize yourself.
Hello, good afternoon. Happy vernal equinox. My name is Harvey Etter. I'm talking for myself and for the Public Solar Power Coalition. This is outrageous. Natural gas, diesel, solar, like the state signed up for it. It's happening. We can't keep on making, the definition of insanity is making the same mistake over and over and over again and just keep on doing. That's what's happening here. It's insane. We got to stop this. We've got to have solar electric vehicles and trucks. And we can do it now, BYD, so they can make $5,000 a year. And in multiple years, we can get the price down. $150 for natural gas is not double. That's 300. This, you said 2 to 250. We can get it down lower. And the operating cost is much less. And that margin could be utilized by low and middle income people. And for instance, like the retirement program that De Leon passed in several other states for low and middle, it'd be like their retirement funds. It could be used with the state's employment perks and whatnot. And I've brought this up with staff that trying to get the whole vehicle and the solar system providing, you can get 30% tax credits. There's also accelerated depreciation. The exact numbers under the new bill have to be roughed out. Is basically 50% paid for by the federal government. If it's 5% is put in, according to the IRS, by the end of December of next year. And then the tax credit drops to about 26 and 22%, but it's substantial. And I produced a PUC document in 80 and 81 on contract as a consultant to Commissioner Grimes, the low-income solar equity program, which I turned in as my thesis for the university, UC Santa Cruz. And I'm incorporating that by reference in here and the litigation that we had at the same time with the Supreme Court. For solar, they do not implement antitrust.
Please stick to the item.
And the equity
Please stick
issue
to the
has
item,
to be
sir.
dealt with. And this is in this transition throughout the nation and the world. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion. Any other member of the public like to speak on item 2 that's before us? Okay, seeing none, no one here in Los Angeles. Supervisor Hilda Solis?
None here.
Okay, with that, we have a motion and a second to approve item 2. Can we ask for a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilmember Robinson.
Aye.
Supervisor Solis,
Yes,
Councilmember Buscaino.
Yes.
Motion passes 4 ayes.
Very good, thank you. So let's now take item number 3.
Good afternoon, board members. This item is to request the board's approval to assign ownership of the CNG station here at the South Coast and execute a new contract for that operation. So by way of background, the South Coast SCAQMD CNG station was first put into service in 2003. The station was constructed by Pinnacle CNG, now known as Trillium CNG. The services of Trillium CNG were retained for operation and maintenance purposes through the term in which the district owned that station. With aging equipment and increased costs, the district decided to, in a sense, get out of the station ownership business in 2014. They issued an RFP. They received 2 bids for station upgrades. Both bids that were received were for new station and new equipment. The board awarded the station to First CNG, otherwise known as Titan CNG, in May of 2015. They came in with a no-cost bid. It is possibly important to point out that into 2015, subsequent to the award, 2 significant events were going on. In June of that year, Honda announced that they were going to stop production of the light-duty CNG Civic. And also during all of 2015, there was uncertainty with regards from the federal government as to whether or not they were going to continue the federal excise tax credit of 50 cents per gallon, which is a significant incentive for NGV infrastructure operators. That was subsequently reinstated at the end of the year and made retroactive. So in February 2016, the station was fully transferred over to Titan Diamond Bar. So in 2016, Titan Diamond Bar folks developed some cold feet with regards to looking at how much it was going to actually cost to put a new station in and what the return on investment would be. So they basically came forward with alternative proposals to do significant upgrades to the station, improve efficiencies, etc. That conversation continued on for about a year with no demonstrable improvements in the station. And subsequently, in August of 2017, Titan's parent company, Evo CNG, stepped in and informed us that that they would not be making any investments in the station improvement, but that they would actively pursue locating a very interested party to assign the station to, while continuing to maintain the station during that period. So between the time that Evo came into the picture in January 2018, the station continued to deteriorate. We were experiencing a lot of shutdowns, interruptions. This was causing a lot of anxiety and frustration with the district's automotive fleet and also members of the public. But in January 2018, Evo did bring forward a company called American CNG Energy. They expressed a very serious interest in the CNG station. And they, the Evo folks did ask us to consider at that time assigning American CNG to the station. So some background on American CNG. They are a Costa Mesa-based company. They do operate 3 stations in Florida and Georgia. And again, they have a significant interest in the Diamond Bar station. So since being handed full responsibility of operation and maintenance of the station, American CNG has been very responsive to addressing all the issues that developed during the long period of neglect
and have restored confidence with our district automotive fleet staff, and we believe the public consumer in improving the reliability of the station. So some of the major efforts that American CNG has made since January include refurbishing both compressors, improving the point of sale and telematics systems to reduce or eliminate transaction freeze-ups, upgrading computer software and soft start systems, soft start systems, excuse me, that were causing significant interruptions and downtime, and upgrading all fueling nozzles to more ergonomic nozzles that have been, received very favorably by everybody. And finally, if American CNG is assigned to the station, they have plans to improve the operating efficiency, reduce operating costs. They want to provide additional on-site storage. They want to repurpose the compression system and separate the compressors to be able to fill the storage overnight at a lower cost, make use of that storage during peak periods, and to help to lower the cost of the station. And they would also like to bring on 100% CNG, 100% RNG to the station. So finally, the recommended actions are to assign the station to American CNG and to execute a new contract with these folks to continue operation. With that.
Thank you, Phil. Colleagues, questions, comments? All right, hearing none. Anyone, oh, go ahead. Yes.
I'll just move the item.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion to move and seconded. Any member of the public wish to speak on this item?
Mr. Etter.
Okay, hearing. Mr. Etter, you're speaking on item number 3?
Yes.
Okay, you have 3 minutes, and again, let me remind you to speak on the item that's before us, which is approve the assignment of an execute contract for CNG station at SCAQMD. Thank you. You got 3 minutes. Start this time.
Hello, happy autismal equinox. My name's Harvey Etter. I'm speaking for myself and for the Public Solar Power Coalition. We got to get rid of this stuff. It's stupid. It's illegal. The Health and Safety Code 53,002B says it is not the legislative intent to prevent non-renewable from fossil fuels being used, imported into the state. 90%.
Mr. Etter, you're not speaking.
Yes, that's what fuels this plant, sir.
Hold
And
it.
you disagree with
Speak
me,
on
but
the
you
item.
can't take my time.
We're holding your time, sir. So let me remind you, speak on the approve assignment of the execute contract.
I
And what's
am.
before
I'm
us?
talking on the fuel source, which
Continue.
is from out of state and violating of the Health and Safety Code. Also, you've had solar in your plans since the late 70s, early 80s, and you have backslid on that, not included in your rules and whatnot. And that's something to litigate with as well. There is drug-resistant antibiotics in the natural gas distribution system. It comes from the waste. 70% of human antibiotics are used in the animal facilities, for the cattle and whatnot. A recent article in the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times in the last week or so said there's in Consumer Reports, one said that the stethoscopes, they never wash their stethoscopes, and now doctors have to. They transfer drug-resistant antibiotics like MRSA, that's incorporated by reference. Also, they said that there's 700,000 deaths in the country per year from this, and it's also from the waste systems and from sewage. And it's, we're not dealing with that. You didn't have to report it to hospital. 700,000 deaths a year in the country. So like 1 to 10% from 7, that would double our deaths using 7,500 for the state. But it's probably 5 or 10 times that at 70,000. That's substantial. It was against, you didn't have to, the hospital didn't have to require to reporting deaths from drug-resistant antibiotics until the 1st of this year.
Speak to the item, please.
I am. You're spreading this stuff around through your distribution system and putting it in the air. And who knows what the health impacts are going to be. As far as it is favorable for natural gas and alleged renewable natural gas, that the low carbon fuel standards, it should be kept in the ground, it should be burnt, it should not be evaluated against releasing methane into the air, which is outrageous, and it discriminates against solar electric and other solar renewables.
Thank you.
So
Your
we
time's
need
up.
immediate total solar conversion ASAP.
Thank
And
you,
then
sir.
incorporate by reference the solar new deal that we
Your
put
time
in
is
the
up.
2016 plan,
Your time
about
is up.
40 or 50 exhibits. Thank you.
With that, colleagues, we have a motion and a second. Can we get a roll call vote on item 3 before us?
Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilmember Robinson,
Aye.
Supervisor Solis,
Aye.
Councilmember Buscaino,
Aye.
motion passes 4 ayes.
Thank you, ma'am. With that, let's now take item number 4 that's before us. Patricia Kwan.
Good afternoon. I'm here to speak to you on item number 4 on amending a contract to implement a DC fast charging network. So as background to this item, previously the board recognized $720,000 in CEC revenue and awarded a contract to Clean Fuel Connection, a local small business. And this was to fund hardware and installation of 20 DC fast chargers, utilizing donated Nissan fast chargers. The scope changed when the SEE CCS connector standard was approved, and so the originally donated chargers can no longer be utilized. In addition, this project has experienced some delays due to changes in the partners and the locations of the chargers. So CC and AQMD staff agreed last year to install 10 DC fast chargers by June of this year along major freeway corridors in LA and San Bernardino counties. However, on June 19th, CC issued a stop work order. All but one of the chargers was installed when the stop work order was issued, and staff attempted to persuade CC to move forward with the agreed upon plan, but was unsuccessful. This has created a significant impact on local small businesses involved in the project, and we recommend providing $350,000 towards installation costs. The match funding for this project remains unchanged, but there would be a shift in from CC funding to AQMD funding of $350,000, as you can see in the table there. We recommend amending a contract with Clean Fuel Connection, substituting up to $350,000 in CC funds for Clean Fuels funding. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, Judy.
Why did they issue a stop order?
So they issued the stop work order because there was a difference in approach as to whether or not to utilize the remaining funding towards installation costs or to try to install 20 DC fast chargers.
I think the reason is there was a change in leadership and staffing at the Energy Commission, so we were operating and cooperating well with the previous EO and director. Once that EO retired, a new one came on board. I think they just reevaluated all the contracts in order to have a clean break, as it were. So, you know, we're where we are, right? So we just want to move forward with the project and complete it.
Right. We don't want to leave
or have a protracted
somebody else holding the bag
argument with the Energy Commission over a relatively small amount for the totality of all the programs that we do with them. So.
I see.
If I could just add, Madam Mayor, Matt and I actually had a discussion with the new executive officer at the CEC, and he took a very strict definition of what the project scope was, and when that project scope changed, he wanted a stop work order. We view that as a significant change in terms of the working relationship. He just viewed it as it's part of business. And I'm putting a stop order. It doesn't mean anything other than the fact that we're stopping this. We're not changing the relationship, and we are working to make sure that we all understand what the conditions are and how we move forward, and whether or not we move in that sort of very formal procedure. And this was the quickest resolution, and to make sure that we maintain the funds that we have and get the project done.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. Thank you. So any member of public like to speak on this item? Okay, hearing none. Like to entertain a motion?
So moved.
Mr.
a
Chairman,
public
there is a
There
public
is
comment
public
currently.
Okay, please come forward. Staff reminds you, Mr. Etter, you have 1 minute, not 3. You have 1 minute to speak on this item.
Why is that?
Close to the end of the meeting.
Well,
Will staff respond to that?
I think I'm bringing up important points and it's being
Mr.
discriminated
Chair,
against and not being heard.
The discretion, isn't it?
Yes.
Discretion of the chair. You have 1 minute, sir.
Okay, well, this is, these chargers should be publicly owned and controlled, not a private company. I'm not familiar with this company. But I've heard that Volkswagen's trying to own theirs, and they're billions of dollars, and that's got to be shut down. It's like the CCA is a community choice here for LA and Ventura counties, whatnot. Should get actively involved in this and not allow. It should be public ownership, except for people using it for their own use or companies could be worked out, but not in a mass scale. Anyway, that's my comment on this. We've got public comments.
Thank you, sir. So with that, we have a motion and a second. A roll call vote, please, on item 4 that's before us.
I'll move the item. I don't think we have a motion. I'll move the item.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. Ms. Solis, second.
I moved.
A roll
yeah.
call vote? Oh, sorry, the other way around.
Mhm.
Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilmember Robinson.
Aye.
Supervisor,
Aye.
Councilmember Buscaino.
Aye.
Motion passes 4 ayes.
Thank you, ma'am. With that, direct your attention to item number 5. That's next on our agenda.
This is to execute agreements to accept the donation and disbursement of electric vehicle chargers. Mercedes-Benz USA approached us to accept a donation of 977 Level 2 EV chargers, and AQMD worked with LA County and the LA Economic Development Corporation to identify partner organizations to assist in dispersing these chargers to sites in disadvantaged and low-income communities. So some of these partner organizations include SCAPA, the California Courts, other municipalities and local and county agencies, as well as AQMD's Replace Your Ride program recipients. So staff proposals to accept the donation of these charging stations, to execute the necessary agreements with partner organizations to disperse these charging stations throughout the 4-county region, with the understanding that the charging stations will be accepted on an as-is basis, and that the partner organizations will be responsible for ensuring that the chargers are installed and maintained and providing proof of installation. SCAPA utilities and cities may also elect to provide rebates to offset the cost of installation. So this would be to authorize the executive officer to execute an agreement with Mercedes-Benz to accept the donation, as well as to identify and execute agreements with partner organizations to disperse these EV chargers. So I'm happy to take any questions.
This is yet another exciting item. I was looking forward to hearing this. As we move forward on our disadvantaged low-income communities, we too need to give them an opportunity to have the flexibility to charge their vehicles. And I want to commend the staff for moving on this. Question, Ms. Kwan, have the communities been identified yet?
A number of these communities have been identified mainly through the SCAPA. There's a number of utilities that are part of SCAPA that are located in these disadvantaged and low-income communities, Colton, Vernon, and a number of other cities. We also have specific cities such as Compton and Pasadena and Vernon that have actually specifically come forward to say that they would like to work with their residents to install chargers in their communities.
I believe this is also an opportunity. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. In addition, LA County is also committing to installing 200 of these chargers at a number of their sites, including sheriff, probation, public works, hospitals, and public health agencies throughout LA County.
Fantastic.
Great.
I'd like to fold in our communications team here at AQMD. I mean, I can see an opportunity surrounding a press event once we identify these locations to highlight specifically in the disadvantaged low-income communities the installation of one of these units, one of these chargers. So that would be my recommendation moving forward. Supervisor Solis, you have a question, comment?
Yeah, I'm really pleased. I'm glad that LA County is partnering with you. And obviously the good news is that most of these divisions that are outlined in the county have a lot of folks that are now driving electric vehicles. So this makes a lot of sense for us. And in addition, if we do a press event or something, Azusa's, a really good area to go try to do something different out in a low-income area. And I'd move the item, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions, comments from colleagues? We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Dwight.
And it looks like there's
we
a
have
public
a member of
comment.
the public.
Looks like there's
Please
a
come
public.
forward. Please come.
Hello, it's me again, Harvey Etter, for myself and for the Public Solar Power Coalition. Again, on the issue of ownership of these, if there's a way it could be tied into with solar equity and for disadvantaged low income, middle income. I don't see CCAs, the largest community choice, energy community choice aggregation in the state is LA County and Ventura County. Has about 25 unincorporated areas of those counties, and has Ventura, Oxnard, and Ojai in Ventura, and about 25 cities, including Santa Monica, Beverly Hills, etc. in LA County. So it would be great if it's called the Clean Power Alliance of Southern California. It'd be great if they were involved in this intimately. So I think that should be amended. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So we have a motion and a second on the table. A roll call vote, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilmember Robinson,
Aye.
Supervisor Solis,
Aye.
Councilmember Buscaino.
Aye.
Motion passes 4 ayes.
Thank you so much. Okay, item number 6 involves UCI, home of the anteaters. With that, we can take item number 6.
Okay, this item includes 2 sub-items with UCI. One is requesting an approval for endowment to support scholarship fund, and the other item is executing a contract to develop fuel cell gas turbine hybrid technology. UCI has carried out remarkable research and development for air quality improvement in mobile as well as stationary areas such as microgrid at UCI campus, smart grid system including electric and fuel cell buses, and fuel cell technology for industries. So Dr. Scott Samuelson established the National Fuel Cell Research Center and the Advanced Power and Energy Program at UCI with a mission to reduce pollutant emissions. Now, UCI is seeking endowment fund that will support graduate students to be designated a Samuelson Energy Visionary Scholar to continue their efforts for air quality research. The AQMD has provided similar support to UC Riverside back in 2015, and this support will enhance AQMD's long-lasting relationship with UCI and provide opportunity for enhanced candidate pools for related positions at AQMD. Regarding fuel cell research, UCI is conducting a DOE-funded study. That program is 5-year cooperative initiative with China for clean energy research, one of which is UCI-led solid oxide fuel cell and gas turbine hybrid technology. That program is developed and designed each system. So UCI will leverage this effort by AQMD's support to integrate solid oxide fuel cell and gas turbine together into one system. Integrating SOFC and gas turbine obtains synergy because SOFC is typically operating over 600 degrees Celsius. So the wasted heat from gas turbine can be used for fuel cell operation. On the other way around, the high temperature exhaust gas can also be used for gas turbine operation. So this cooperation will enhance entire system efficiency up to 75%. This system's primary focus is stationary power generation, but has potential to off-road vehicle applications. The UCI requested a one-time $1 million endowment for their scholarship fund, and the proposed endowment program will select a graduate student every year and support for each year. The selected student will take a lead for air quality research. The scholarship program will be overseen by advisory board consisting of representatives from UCI, APAB, AQMD, and CARB. In the fuel cell project, a detailed system model will be, simulation model will be developed to identify research and development needs, and the system model will calculate the benefit of system efficiency and cost effectiveness and emission reductions when they are integrated. And the system is potentially operating by various fuel, including natural gas, biogas, and renewable hydrogen in the 1 megawatt to 10 megawatt range. This range is applicable for repowering locomotive and ocean-going vessel power, which could help AQMD's effort with key off-road high NOx emitting sources. Total project cost for the fuel cell project is $900,000, and requested funding to AQMD is $200,000. Remaining $700,000 will be provided by DOE. So staff recommend to execute an agreement to contribute $1 million for an endowment from BP ARCO Settlement Project Fund and execute a contract to cost share in amount of $200,000 from Clean Fuel Fund. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hoff. Any questions or comments on this item? Yet another opportunity to partner with UCI. I know this is a proud moment for Matt here. As a product of UCI himself. And great, when we talk about education and higher education as it relates to the environment and lowering emissions and finding ways to advance our efforts, this is a great partnership. I want to commend and recognize the district and working alongside UCI and other partners here. So with that, any member of the public wish to speak on this item, please come forward. Mr. Etter's getting a workout. Maybe he's just planting himself there on that chair.
Okay.
There's only one more item.
Do I get a seat on the board? No?
Yeah.
There ought to be a public seat on this board. Ought to
Start
be a
his
public
time.
seat on every board. I don't see down here, I see natural gas, this allegedly renewable and harmless implied natural gas and hybrid technology for fuel cells. Now, in there, hybrid 1 to 10 megs, solar. I haven't read through this whole document. I just got it this morning or today. But anyway, solar electric's got to be included in this, and it's got to have a chance to compete. We can compete real well, cash on cash, or without, like the head of the UN, and I want to incorporate everything I said in all these other meetings today in the record here on each item that I've commented on. Thank you. So, you know, at least be fair enough to UCI and whatnot to give us a solar chance to compete. And when I mentioned that the tax credits may be applicable on this, and I think some of that might already be happening. And I'd like to discuss a contract to look into that, and I brought that up with staff already. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, on item 6, do we have a motion?
I'll move the item.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for item number 6. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilmember Robinson. Supervisor Solis has. Supervisor Solis.
He went to the restroom. She'll be right back.
No, you can't do that here. You cannot do that. Kidding.
Councilmember Buscaino.
Just kidding. Yes.
Oh, there you go. Are you voting? Yeah. Are you voting? She's
Yes.
back. I'm back.
All right, Ms. Solis.
Aye.
Thank you. I'm just kidding. I said there's no restroom breaks in this committee. I was just kidding.
Yeah, we've been at it since 9 o'clock.
Motion passed.
Thanks.
Motion passes 4 ayes.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so with that, item number 7, that's now before us, colleagues.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Impoliti.
Yes. My item is to amend an agreement and transfer some funds to develop and demonstrate zero-emission capable drayage trucks. In March of 16, the board recognized money from CARB, an amount of about $23 million from their greenhouse gas reduction fund to demonstrate zero-emission capable drayage trucks. We executed contracts with all of our partners, and the projects are presently being conducted. Some of the costs have exceeded the original estimates. And also, payments to those contractors have been delayed due to CARB's reimbursement process and the length of time that takes. What our proposal is to add $108,000 to BYD Motors contract, and $100,000 of that is for EV infrastructure and $8,000 for data loggers for baseline diesel trucks. And as well as Peterbilt, adding $76,000 to their contract for, I think 66 of that, or 68 of that is EV infrastructure, and the balance is for data loggers. Also, one of our funding partners, the San Joaquin APCD, has requested some administrative funds to manage the project that is going to happen in their air district. So we're asking to allocate them $50,000 for those costs. Also, we're asking to transfer as an advance payment $5 million from our Clean Fuels Fund to the GHG Reduction Project Special Fund as a temporary advance of funds so that we can pay the contractors while we wait for payment from ARB. Recommended actions: amend those contracts with our partners for $184,000, $108,000 to BYD Motors, and $76,000 Peterbilt Motors for the EV infrastructure and data loggers. Also amend the agreement with San Joaquin APCD to reallocate up to $50,000 from AQMD's administrative funds from the GHG Reduction Project Special Fund. Also, we're asking a couple more actions.
Yep, I see it.
To authorize our executive officer to redistribute project funds amongst the 4 participating manufacturers in our project, BYD, Kenworth, Peterbilt, and Volvo, on an as-needed basis to meet project goals. And this would be a contingent upon ARB approving of those changes. And also the transfer of the $5 million as a temporary advance on funds from the Clean Fuel Fund to the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Special Revenue Fund. And that's it.
Thank you. So with that, I'll turn to the public comment period. Anyone here to speak on this item number 7?
Mr. Chairman, I do need to mention that I don't have a financial interest or a conflict of interest, but I'm a member of the California Air Resources Board, And I take
Yes.
no responsibility for their reimbursement process.
Maybe you can help me about that.
We know where to find you.
Mr. Chair, can we move the item?
There's
Public
a comment, Mr. Chair, and I have a question as well.
All right, we'll take the question first. Mr. Robinson, floor is yours.
Okay, I was just wondering if you could elaborate a little bit further on the redistribution of project funds by the executive officer. And it seems a little too vague for me, so I'm just wondering how much funds and how will that happen?
Okay, what we initially received from ARB for administrative funds is about just under $1 million. I think it was like $970,000 for administrative funds. We know that we don't need all of those funds, and ARB is allowing us to redistribute those, like for things that we just couldn't or overseen the costs, like EV infrastructure, which is very hard to determine early in the project. And so what we're asking, if in the future, if there are other things, other costs that come up within this project, that instead of going through this action again, that if our executive officer could approve those, of course, with ARB's approval.
Sure, and I appreciate the efficiency for sure. So what would be some of the things that might pop up? Because this is specific to the OEMs, right? So it's...
Right, well, mainly, one of the big things, of course, EV infrastructure. And we know that those are hard to determine because until you get onto the site and you do a site evaluation to determine if there's enough power where the charging equipment is at, and sometimes there isn't, and so you got to add, there's wire trenching, transformers to bring in more energy from the grid.
Okay.
So those are the kind of costs that we foresee. The data logger thing, that was sort of a favor we're doing for ARB because they didn't include that in their contractor with the data collection third party. And so they asked us if we would use our admin funds to cover some of those.
Okay.
We did.
Joe, aren't we talking strictly about the admin fees though?
Yes.
The admin, so it's not
Right.
the total 25 million, we're talking about the amount that we were allocated
Sure.
by ARB for the admin, which is
Got
just
it.
south of 1 million.
Yeah, I guess where I'm a little confused is on the infrastructure side. I'm wondering how that correlates to the OEMs.
Only that they're
Right,
on the hook to
EV
install it.
Okay,
And,
all right.
And there wasn't, I don't think it's even in the proposal on how much it was gonna cost. So we're
Okay.
concerned that as we move forward, there's not gonna be a budget allocation for that.
That's where I was missing the
Right.
connection that they're
They're on the hook.
required to install it. And so, okay, now I understand. And I appreciate the efficiency, like I said, so that answers my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Etter,
Yes.
do you have want to speak on this item?
Yes, sir.
Please come forward.
Thank you.
1 minute. Thank
Not
you.
much, okay, I'll have to be direct. These are not zero emission vehicles unless you have 100% solar. If you're using natural gas or whatever to make the electricity, this is a lie. This is fraud. This is perjury and suborning perjury by the district. And should be dealt with accordingly as your other actions, not to recognize that we're looking at 100% solar renewables by law, SB 100 de Leon, by 2045 or sooner, and it's going to happen as quick as you can blink. The question is, who's going to get over on it? The people or the 1%, the multinational corporations alone, and the insurance companies and banks? Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion.
Item's been moved.
Second.
Need a second.
Roll call vote, please. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilmember Robinson,
Aye.
Supervisor Solis,
Aye.
Councilmember Buscaino.
Yes.
Motion passes 4 ayes.
Fantastic. With that, we have now item 8 before us, an informational item
Yes, Mr.
on the app SCAQMD.
Yes, Mr. Chair. This is Bay Gilchrist. I'm going to provide a brief update regarding our planned approach to prevent labor law violations involving district-funded truck replacement projects that could lead to potential district liability. This is in response to concerns about lease-to-own arrangements that have resulted in some truck drivers operating trucks in excess of legally allowed limits, and also some of the concerns that were raised by Supervisor Solis at the July 2018 board meeting. So first, during the application stage, the district would plan to ask applicants for a district-funded truck replacement project if, within the last 3 years, from the date of application, the applicant was found to be in violation of labor laws by a court or state or federal agency. If there were any violations, the applicant would be asked to provide additional information to help the district assess whether the applicant's labor law violations would be likely to continue and whether they would pose potential liability to the district. And we would be limiting this to labor law violations related to truck drivers, not just within the entity. Second, language would be inserted into the contract prohibiting lease-to-own agreements for district-funded trucks. This would supplement our current contract language that already requires the contractors comply with applicable local, state, and federal laws and regulations in performing under the contract. Third, the language will be inserted in the contract requiring a contractor to promptly notify us if it is found by a court or state or federal agency to be in violation of labor laws relating to truck drivers during the term of the contract. This might be eased somewhat by SB 1402, which was sponsored by Senator Lara, if it is actually signed by the governor, which would basically require that these types of violations be put on the internet. Fourth, contractors would be completing a yearly certification attesting that they have not been found by a court or state or federal agency to be in violation of labor laws relating to truck drivers during the last year. And if they were so found, to provide us information about those violations to us so that we could look into it and make sure that we didn't have any liability concerns. And last, we would be conducting audits just to ensure compliance. Unless there's any questions, that was all that I had for that.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Questions, colleagues?
Mr. Chair, I just want to thank our staff. I want to thank Faye, Gilchrist, and all those that worked on this. This is an important issue for many people, concerns that were raised back in July. So I really appreciate the analysis and review and the revised due process. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. So with that, public comment with no, not on information. Okay, great. So other business. Let me. I have a confession to make on other business. Earlier, I mentioned the UCI alum Matt Maisoto. I don't think he's in the room now, but just know that is he still here?
I'm still here.
Our own executive director is a fine alum of a UCI, and but I don't see him in the room. So give him my best and tell him that we know he's a proud anteater representing UCI. And lastly, go anteaters. Lastly, a member of our own government relations department, Fabian Wesson's birthday today. So make sure if you see her, give her a hug. Happy birthday, Faye. Any other business, colleagues? All right, general public comment. Somebody want to speak on a non-agenda item, please come forward now. If so, you got 1 minute.
Well, I want to say that on that 01 for BYD, I've talked to them, and they're manufacturing solar cells, and I talked to them. They said they're going to manufacture a couple of plants in Mexico. I said, well, how about bringing them here? Anyway, it's got to be solar. Like I said on 6, I'm incorporating by reference everything I said on 6 in here, and everything else I said today, and everything else I said before the board ever. So I don't know if I go. I got an attitude. Part of what I have an attitude is what has to do with Governor Brown and appointees and whatnot. I was accused at the first National Anti-Nuclear Strategy Conference by the Abalone Alliance. I was their point man. In Louisville, Kentucky, I was called an FBI agent by Tom Hayden, the governor's point man. And when you disrupt stuff, 40 years ago, this is, or the article from The Nation, it talks about, this stuff should have been done 40 years ago. With this kind of crap going around the new left, calling people agents, it started with agent provocateurs and the SBS and the weather people and whatnot. It's garbage, and it
Thank
still
you.
hangs over this. I wasn't let into this damn meeting last week.
Thank you so much. So with that, colleagues, we are now adjourned. Have a great and blessed rest of the weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.